Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Rosedale North Water and Wastewater Renewal Project public meeting. I'm Lydia, and I'm just going to kick some things off with Zoom logistics, letting you all know how you can participate in this meeting. So for those of you, looks like most of y'all are joining from a computer. No one is joining from a phone yet. So if you're on a computer or an iPad, this is your Zoom screen, and if you hold your mouse or your cursor over the bottom half or the bottom part of this black Zoom screen, you'll see these buttons, the chat and the Q&A features. So I'm your technical assistance person, so throughout the meeting, if you have a question or something is sounding weird or not working on your end, you can use that chat feature to ask for help. And then we're going to have a set time for Q&A. So a good way to ask your questions is to click that Q&A button and just type your question into the chat box or the Q&A box, and we'll answer those during a set time. If you don't want to type your question in and you prefer to speak it out loud, you can click the raise hand button, which should be on that bottom Zoom toolbar towards the right. I think it's to the right of the chat button, and you can raise your hand and I will let you know when I'm about to unmute you and you can ask your question out loud. If people join in on the phone before we get to the Q&A section, I'll go back over how to ask a question via your cell phone. So again, use chat to ask any questions or make any comments, and then use that Q&A feature to ask questions, or the raise hand button. And I think I'll turn it over to Emily now.
Thanks, Lydia. We really appreciate your help with the meeting tonight. Hello, everyone. I'm Emily Chancellor. I'm in Austin Water's Public Information Office, and I'll be helping with communications for this project throughout the project. Our agenda tonight will start with welcome and logistics, which we've mostly covered, and then our project team will introduce themselves. The project manager will take us through an overview of the project, and then that usually takes 15 to 20 minutes giving that presentation, and then we'll be available to answer your questions, and we'll remind you when we get to that part how you can submit questions. So we're happy to have you here. Before I start introductions, let me just say a couple of other things. So if you have questions that are specific to your property, then when we get to the Q&A part, we'll ask you through the chat to send that information to the panelist. And that way you can send us your address and your contact information, and our team can look at the construction plans and get back with you about questions that are specific to your property. If they're general questions, we'll answer them tonight. We have the whole project team here, and most information we'll have available on the spot, but we want to just follow up with you later if you have questions specific to your property. All right, let's get started with introductions, and Matt, will you kick us off, please?
Certainly. Thank you, Emily. Matt Harold, I'm the Capital Delivery Project Manager with Public Works. So I'll be helping on day-to-day to manage the actual delivery of the project for the city.
My name is Jameson Smith. Bonner Crump will be the engineering construction inspector on site, and he's having technical difficulties, so I'm speaking for him. I'm, again, Jameson Smith. I'm the supervisor for engineering construction coordination.
Good evening. My name is William Power. I'm the supervising engineer for the construction management division. And Jameson, as well as Bonner, are on my team. And we ensure that everything is done according to the contractual documents, and we'll be inspectors as well as the main point of contact if there's any questions on site. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Deidre Kirk. I am the project sponsor for Austin Water. And as sponsor, my responsibilities include project implementation and funding.
Yes, hello. My name is Alex Perez. I'm with I represent the general contractor for this project, Underground Water Solutions. And as the PM, I'll be the main point of contact for the general contractor for the work, the construction work going on in the field.
Hi, good evening. My name's Josh Janasek. I'm with BGE. I'll be the engineer's rep through the construction of this project.
Thank you all, and I'm Emily Chancellor. Like I said, I'll be working with the project team to provide communications to the neighborhood throughout the construction period. And I do work on construction projects throughout the city. We have several in the Allendale area, so you may have heard about the West Allendale project. We'll be starting construction on the East Allendale project soon. So we do have a lot of activity in your general neighborhood. And with that, Matt, I'm going to kick it over to you, and so we can get started on this project overview.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Emily just said, there's a lot of work going on in the area, and a lot of that is related to the pipeline renewal projects under the Renewing Austin program. It's an ongoing effort to replace and upgrade deteriorated and aging water mains that have a documented history of breaks or in poor condition that impact service. You may have noticed repairs, significant numbers of repairs over the years in your neighborhood. And what that has done is it has kicked this area into the Renewing Austin program. And so hopefully we can knock that out with this project. Which will include 5,800 linear feet of water lines and 5,300 linear feet of wastewater lines. In addition, 9 fire hydrants are going to be replaced and 1 will be reconnected. And some of those will move as a result of new code requirements for firefighting. Construction is scheduled to start in August of this year and will take about 2 years. That's not the time frame for heavy equipment on the ground. That's the entire construction process. So it'll be a little bit later before you start to see equipment and before you start to see trenching happen in the area. So we've got the project extents here, which include starting at Allendale, Koenig, South. We've got Nasco, Northland, Shoal Creek, and then Shoal Edge, Shady Oak, Shoalmont, and Sonora cul-de-sacs. Important to note that these cul-de-sacs will continue to have access during the entire construction process on that cul-de-sac, so they will not be cut off from egress. Next slide. So what you can expect during construction, this construction will involve open trench digging to access the water and wastewater lines. During that process, it will be a multi-visit process. So they will open up the roads, they will access sections, they will replace sections. They'll place plates over those trenches temporarily so that they can come back at a later date to make other connections. So you may notice that the area in front of your home is opened up and there are construction crews working there maybe multiple times for short periods over the course of a few weeks to get the section in front of your house finished. During that time, we'll be patching the roads, but at the end of the project completely, those streets that were identified a moment ago will be repaved, which I know a number of them are full of prior patches from repairs, so that should be pretty welcome. So again, yeah, the crews will be in front of properties sometimes multiple times to complete each phase of the project, which would include excavation, new pipe installation, some temporary paving, and any repairs as necessary. During construction, most of the work will be limited to the right-of-way. Now, the right-of-way in some cases is the area behind the curve that you may consider to be part of your own lawn. As a result, there may be landscaping in that area that is disturbed during construction. So prior to the beginning of construction, directly in front of your property, our inspector will be notifying you of that work. So that would be the time for you to consider what landscaping there may need to be temporarily removed in order to prevent its being removed during construction. I think the biggest concern that we've heard so far is with relation to traffic in the area. There are going to be cases where segments of the street are closed or will be restricted to one-way traffic and flagging, and detours will be recommended. During the course of the project, though, you will have access to your home. There may be very short periods where access is reduced or limited, but the contractor will have plates on site and will be capable of placing those plates over any excavations and allow you to get in and out of your driveway. Additionally, as I noted a moment ago, the inspector will be reaching out to you the week that your work would be occurring to let you know that work will be coming. That way you can make any arrangements that you need to. But again, access to your individual home and driveway or your street and cul-de-sac will not be restricted for but short periods. At some point, though, during the project, your water service will be disconnected, and that's part of connecting you to the new lines. 48 hours prior to that, you will receive a flyer on your door letting you know the approximate time when that water will be cut off. It is possible. I mean, we are working with older water lines to make these new updates and connections. It is possible that there could be emergency outages as a result of that work. Those will be fixed as quickly as possible, and your service will be returned as quickly as possible. Work is scheduled for this project to be Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then Saturdays and Sundays, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. as needed. For addresses on Northland, you've been previously contacted and you'll be contacted again as we get closer to actual work. But those properties, the wastewater line will be moved from the back of the houses into the street in Northland, and those properties will receive updates to their private lateral, so the connection from the house to the city line. Those individual property owners will be contacted prior to this work occurring. So what to expect during construction? Most of the work will occur in the street. Some work will occur in the right-of-way. In the right-of-way, we may have to do some tree trimming to get heavy equipment in. As you see here, over sidewalks, it would be approximately 8 feet of clearance, and then over the main road, 14 feet of clearance. It's, again, the week of construction in your area, you'll be notified of that work. And at that time, if there's tree trimming concerns, it may be wise for you to, or prior to that, it may be wise for you to discuss with your own arborist. Otherwise, the city and the contractor will have an arborist out there to move trees and trim trees as necessary. I don't know if Emily, you want to cover this one?
Yeah, sure. I think I'll take back over here. Thank you, Matt. That was really helpful to go through what to expect and review the project. So our main methods of communication during the project will be, the first one is our email updates. And Lydia is going to share in the chat the link to our project website, which is austintexas.gov/Rosedale North. And on that page, you can sign up to get updates by email. We also will share that information on Nextdoor if you're active on Nextdoor. And then, like Jameson mentioned, and Bonner on his team, they will provide notices on your door at least 48 hours before there's a scheduled time for your water service to be connected, and so when your water would be interrupted. So those are the main ways that we'll communicate out to you. We're always available to answer questions, and at the end of the meeting, I'll put up a slide with our contact information, which you should have received in the mail also. And that is the end of our presentation, and now we're ready to have some dialogue with you to hear your questions. So just to review, I don't think we have anyone who's joined us by phone, but if you're here on the meeting, you can type your question into the Q&A. If you click on the Q&A button, you can type in your question or comment. If you'd like to speak, then press the raise your hand button and we'll know that you want to speak, and Lydia will help you get unmuted and we can talk directly with you. So just waiting for questions or comments to come in. I'm going to go ahead and advance us over to the slide that has our contact information. And all right. Here's our first question. What area outside the actual work area will have water turned off? Or are there several segments along Shoal Creek that can individually be turned off? I don't know if maybe William or Jameson, do you want to talk about how those water shutoffs typically work?
Sure.
Let me know if y'all want me to read the question again.
Yeah, if you can read the question again, but I think it was more directed at what segments of the actual project scope can be left with water or shut down separately from those other segments.
Yeah, so what area outside the actual work area will have water turned off? So they're asking like if the water shutoffs are going to affect areas outside of where we're doing construction. And then they said, or are there several segments along Shoal Creek that can be individually turned off? So I think we might just talk about where there are valves and how we manage that during the shutoff.
Sure. So the shutoff that we do specifically will be determined first off by the location of the connection. Based on the location of the connection, we go to the GIS system, and basically that will be Bonner. And sorry for the background noise. Got my baby with me.
That's okay.
We'll review the actual location for that connection. We'll go to the GIS system to pinpoint what valves are necessary to close in order to do the actual connection with minimal impact to additional neighborhoods or additional blocks or houses. So once we've got that particular those particular valves that we are going to be working with, we send out a request to do a test shutout to make sure that these actual houses within that particular zone are the ones that are being impacted. And also for the test shutouts, you will receive a notice 48 hours beforehand that will let you know that your water will be impacted for around 30 minutes. And that'll be the test shutout. Then within 14 days, you'll have the full shutout. But it'll vary depending on the location of the connection, as well as what valves and what connections are around that particular system. So specifically, I cannot speak on to what specific areas in Shoal Creek can be left, with water while some shut up, because that's a very general question. And that's gonna be basically in a case-by-case scenario. Maybe the engineer of record or PM or sponsor could talk more of if they know any specifics of that part, but that's particularly the process that we do. So you will get notice, and we will definitely always do our best to impact as less people as possible. So we do go through that process to assure that we don't shut down. A lot of people are not needed to be without water.
Anybody on the project team want to add to that explanation? I think the main point to get across here is that our system is designed where certain sections can be isolated through where the valves are placed. And like William said, we wouldn't be able to like give the specifics now, but it's not like we have to take out the whole neighborhood when these are being done. The system's designed so that certain sections can be isolated while they're making these new connections. Is that a good takeaway? Anybody have anything else to add?
That's a better way to put it, definitely, Emily. Thank you.
Oh, no, not better, just different.
Well, and Emily, I was just looking, it looks like we're reinstalling, I think, 25 valves. So just to give you an idea, there's, you know, there's at least 25 new valves going in, which will allow us to isolate this neighborhood even more. But there are significant isolation valves already in place that'll allow us to close off certain areas and not the entire neighborhood all at once.
Thanks, Matt. That's helpful. Appreciate that. All right, I'll move to the next question we have in the queue here. Will the old water meters be replaced with new smart meters? Are we replacing water meters on this project? It looks like Ms. Deidre can help us with this.
No, the smart meter is a separate entity unto itself. So smart meters will not be added to this project at this time.
Are we replacing the water meters at all, or are the water meters staying?
The water meters are staying.
Okay.
We're replacing the services up to the water meter.
Okay. And for those of you who may not have heard about it, Austin Water does have a project to replace all water meters in our system. And we've just gotten started on it with a pilot project at the end of last year. And they're starting to do installations in more neighborhoods. We expect it to take about 4 years for us to get through the whole city to replace all the meters. They are installing the data collection units, which will provide the network so that when meters are installed, they'll be the data will be sent in to Austin Water on an hourly basis. And once you do have that new meter and you create an account for our new customer portal, you'll be able to see your water use the next day. So instead of just getting your water use monthly on your bill, you'll be able to log in today and see your water use from the day before, make comparisons to previous years, and have a lot more tools to manage your water use and set up alerts so that if you're potentially have a leak, that you'll get a notification about it. If there's water just continually going through your meter, the system will automatically notify you. You can even set up a sort of budget where you get a notification if your bill is kind of going up to a level that you set. So we're very excited to get that system out to all of our customers. It's going to take a little time. It's a pretty big project, and you can learn more about that at I'll put the link in the chat. It's myatxwater.org, I'm pretty sure, but I'll put the link in the chat before we end the meeting. So that's an improvement that will be coming to this neighborhood under a separate project. I don't have any other questions at this point. Lydia, am I missing anything?
Nothing that I see. I did just put in the chat my ATX Water website.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we have the project page in the chat, and
okay.
Here's a question.
Yeah, here's a question. So will wastewater service be turned off during the construction? So how will that be handled? Who wants to speak on that? So I guess I can start, and then I think William and Jameson, I think y'all are the closest. You want to do this one, William?
Yeah, I can speak to that. And sorry again for the background noise. So
it's fine.
Give me 10 seconds, please.
Yeah, no problem. So I know that where there is a new wastewater line installed, your service line will need to be connected to it. So William, are you available now? You want to pick that up?
Yes. So And even the contractor could mention means and methods, but typically what we do is we install the new line and get it close to the clean out that separates the right of way versus your private property. And then we will contact you to let you know that we might be, we'll test it before we connect, but we'll definitely contact you to say, hey, can you please not flush anything or turn on your water for the next 30 to 45 minutes, and we can actually talk with y'all to see what time are better to do these connections. But in terms of shutting down your wastewater system, it won't be for a lot of time. It'll be just for a short period while we actually just disconnect that old service and connect the new service that has already been tested. So basically it'll be inches away from your existing connection.
Thank you. Alex, do you want to add anything on that? So I know there's a lot of coordination in the field, and that's where Bonner and then Alex's superintendent, they'll be knocking on the door and they'll be talking to you. So it's going to be a short interruption and they'll coordinate with you, but so you'll know. You'll have a little warning and then they'll say, okay, no flushing for the next half hour. So it's a short interruption. Alex, anything you want to add on that?
Sure, yes, that's all correct. There isn't an actual shutout. The wastewater is not ever going to be shut out or disconnected. On some of the larger sections where we're replacing wastewater, we as the contractor in the right of way will set up bypass pumping so that the wastewater system in that area can still operate. And then like William said, on the individual service connections, we're going to make those connections. We're going to try to reach out to the the resident with the service in question, and work it out to where we can do it without impacting them. But it's not like a water system where the water system has, area-wide, outages to make connections. Wastewater system does not have that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think this is an important time to just kind of convey that there's going to be a lot of in the field coordination. You have here on the screen Bonner Crump's cell phone number, and he will be available and answer your questions. He'll be on site most days. And so there's going to be a lot of communication and coordination when the work is there in front of your home. And I have to tell you, I'm always amazed by the work that is done by these folks. They are very customer oriented. They have done many projects and have a lot of experience at problem solving and making things that are pretty disruptive work pretty smoothly. So you can rely on them and you can call them at any time if you have a question or a concern. I don't have any other questions here. So I'm going to pause for a few moments just to see if there's any questions that are just about to come in. I feel like we've covered most of the main points. We'll be in touch. We're available. If you think of something later, you can definitely reach out to us. We'll reply by email or call you back, whatever your preference is. And when this is done, you'll have a more resilient utility system and repaved roads. Like Matt was mentioning, there's probably a lot of patches out there now from things that have been repaired over the past few years. All right, any team members want to make any closing comments before we wrap this up?
I'll just say, yeah, feel free to reach out to me at any time if you have questions or concerns in the area. I'm always happy to help.
Thanks, Matt. All right, I don't see any other questions or anyone raising their hand, so I'm just going to, on behalf of the team, thank you for spending your time with us this evening. We have recorded this meeting and we will send out the link for anyone who's on vacation. I know it's a busy time of summer, so if folks miss the meeting, they'll have a chance to catch up and watch what they missed. And we will, probably the next time you hear from us through the email newsletter is when construction is going to start. So like Matt mentioned, there'll be some sort of preliminary work. We may not see big equipment out there in August, but there'll be work going on to kind of clear the way for construction to start. And so we will get an email out to you all once construction is going to start and the real activity will begin. So you'll have a heads up, know what's going on. All right, thank you everyone. Have a great evening and stay safe.